I'm Markia.
Want to hear something scary?
Battle of Behemoths. Grace and Nora had plans to go to the Giant's Causeway. Just north of their hometown of Bushmills in Northern Ireland, it's a massive collection of hexagonal stone pillars formed by a lava flow millions of years ago. Legend has it that the Giant of Ireland, known as Finn McCool, defended his country from the Scottish giant Benandonner among the massive pillars. The siblings figured it was the perfect place to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. When they arrived at the site, all was peaceful. They wandered the grassy cliffs and enjoyed the view. Admittedly, it was a bit more boring than they expected, until suddenly, the earth began to rumble and brought them to their knees. There was a loud, echoing sound as the ground beneath them continued to shake. The earth beneath Nora tore away as she fell into a widening fissure. She grabbed the edge of the cliff as she dropped, and Grace grasped desperately at her, trying to pull her back up. But the ground quaked again. Nora lost her grip and dropped into the dark abyss. Grace heard a loud, guttural sound coming from the water's edge. It couldn't possibly belong to a human, she thought. And then, a wilder scream replied to the roar. Suddenly, she saw a massive figure rise up on the beach below the cliff. It resembled a human, but was as tall as her 2-story house. Grace stifled her own scream as a second monstrous figure, bigger than the first, rose out of the water and approached the other. She could not believe her eyes. The giants of the Giant's Causeway were real. Finn McCool versus Benandonner and their legendary conflicts. Grace had heard the stories, but she had never believed them. She had to get out of there and find help for her sister without the giants seeing her. Just then, the two monsters collided with the force of an earthquake, causing Grace to lose her balance and tumble down the hill to the beach below. Benandonner turned and looked hungrily at Grace and moved quickly towards her. Finn McCool charged after his foe. Grace screamed as the two giants bore down on her. Just as Benandonner was about to snatch up Grace, Finn McCool jumped between them. The giants clashed again, roaring and screaming. Benandonner kept trying to grab Grace as she ran, but Finn McCool kept knocking him backwards. Finally, Finn McCool ripped one of the thousands of basalt stone columns from the ground and bashed it over Benandonner's head, causing the giant to fall into the water, creating a massive wave that rolled up to the cliffs towards Grace. Before she washed out to sea, Finn McCool grabbed her. "Please don't eat me, please," Grace pleaded. She screamed as the giant swiftly brought her close to his face. But when she opened her eyes, she found the giant just staring back at her. Grace then remembered that Finn McCool was a giant of Ireland and swore to always protect his people just as he had protected Grace. Lowering her and opening his massive palm, he loosened his grip on her. Grace heard Nora calling out from somewhere below them. She was alive. Grace trembled as she pointed to the crevice that had swallowed Nora whole. Finn jumped into the fissure and disappeared. A long time passed, and Grace thought both him and her sister were now lost forever. The earth exploded in front of her, dirt cascading around her as Finn broke his way through. He set the now unconscious Nora down gently beside Grace. She worriedly shook her sister until she opened her eyes. Grace turned to show her the giant who had saved them, but Finn McCool was gone. He had retreated back into the earth, where he would remain until the next time Ireland was threatened by enemies or monsters.